Now, an hour of clarity for exhausted people of our nation mired in toxic partisanship. Left versus right, us versus them. While we pay to keep our politicians fighting, how do we, the people, rise up and solve the great challenges of our time? We do it by embracing freedom and liberty. There may be no such thing as a free lunch, but this hour is as close as it gets. Welcome to A Free Solution.
Hey, welcome to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson today, joined by Tim the Freedom Variant O'Connor.
Captain Freedom Variant.
Captain Freedom Variant. You don't have your hat on today.
Oh, dang it. I should. Maybe I'll go find it during the show. I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
I mean, the Free Britney movement is getting revived, right?
Free Britney movement. That's right.
If
you made your signs, you made your T-shirts, you can use them again.
We've got to save our Britney Griner.
Yeah.
I think.
Now, go ahead.
I think that people are getting a grasp on it when we have this conversation that there are people in the United States in jail for weed style offenses, and now here it is. So, a relative star. A lot of people are insulted because she was a flag sitter, right? Like during the national anthem, she would sit. So a lot of people don't like her. She's a little too woke for a lot of people. But a lot of people are having to deal with the concept of she's an American citizen getting punished for her medicine, really, like her stuff she uses.
I mean, well, it was like she was using it for like medicinal reasons, right? That's. And again, not that it would matter to me anyway. You want to use it for medicinal reasons, record, like who cares? Like it doesn't matter. I don't know, man. Like people on your page, like they're kind of against like the U.S. government jumping in to get her out, unless like we let all the other people in jail who are in jail in the United States for marijuana free. She getting special treatment, or should we like?
Well, we live
like call it out as an unjust situation anyway.
It is an unjust situation, but she is getting special attention from the U.S. government because she's a very, very, very minor celebrity. Like that's real, okay? Like she's getting attention that other people will not get. Period. She's getting attention that I don't. That I understand where people are coming from. She's disrespected the national anthem, and so she made her political points. I never thought maybe you and I should travel down this wormhole on another show, where I thought everybody was right when it came to the whole flag thing, right? Like in the sitting for the national anthem, and everybody was kind of right. And then we made a mess of it anyway. Like it just turned into too big of a deal.
Well, I mean, it ended up turning into one of those things. Everyone got polarized. We kind of stopped discussing the actual issue. And I mean, that whole, like, the flag kneeling, sitting thing, all that stuff like that. It ended up being about the police, but like that's what it was like originally about. And then people were like, "Oh, they're disrespecting like America and the troops." Like, well, it wasn't exactly about that. I don't know. The whole conversation got derailed
that way.
Quickly.
You know what I mean? Like this guy gets to say, Colin Kaepernick got to say whatever he wanted about it, and he got to reinvent some of his positions to make them more broadly appealing. I felt.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, he has some positions that aren't so great. Again, I thought it was fun. Again, like it is weird. He was toxic for a while, and now it's a whole thing where it's like, oh, I'm not getting back in because of this or because of racism. Like, well, you kind of been out for a while too.
Yeah.
Like now again, I watched football pretty closely.
Maybe he wasn't that good. That's what I'm.
Yeah,
that's
like
what I'm
he's
thinking.
like, I mean, he went to a Super Bowl.
But, the team, the team, the offensive line. I mean, that's what gets you to Super Bowls. Let's be honest.
I don't know, man. It's a bunch of stuff. That wasn't the rabbit hole we wanted to go down on this, right? Like, all right. So
related. And she's 9.5 years, people.
But if it were Colin Kaepernick in jail too, like in Russia, like I'd feel the same way about it. Yeah. Or if it were, I don't know, like Tucker Carlson messing around and like he got caught with, or Jordan Peterson or something, got caught with drugs in Russia and he was being held there. Okay. Like, yeah, they probably shouldn't be in jail for drugs in Russia either. Right. Actually, I thought Maj Toure actually had a pretty good video on this, and I know some folks like that dude kind of rubs him the wrong way, but he's like the Black Guns Matter guy. You're
Okay.
with him? Yeah.
I like the Black Guns Matters guys. Maj
Yeah.
is just awesome.
So Maj, he had a video on this. He's like, look, like conservatives, libertarians, if you're actually against the war on drugs, you're against big government. Like, it doesn't matter like what her positions are. This is still an unjust thing, right? Yeah, we should totally let people out of prison in the United States. It is, it's a little bit messed up that like we aren't doing that, and that she is getting like kind of preferred treatment because she's a minor celebrity, right? Like we can acknowledge that's all messed up, but also she shouldn't be in jail, and feel bad for the family and her friends around her who have to suffer because she's in prison for a stupid war on drugs / Russia just trying to hold a hostage, essentially, in exchange for actual,
you can't just let weed offenders out of prison in the United States. There's revenue streams that have to be considered, Kevin. Like we have to keep that money flowing. A lot of jobs. And look, if we end up letting so many people out that we have to start closing prisons, that is going to affect tax bases.
People get legit mad when we start talking about that in our region of New York. You know this. I mean, I'm Utica Rome area. Like if someone started talking about, oh, well, maybe we'll have to close down Marcy, like people would flip out.
They have built their lives around those places. So
yeah. No, I have several friends whose parents work there, continue to work there.
So there is a valid point, but should we be keeping people in prison over marijuana? No.
Nope.
We got to fix that. We got to fix that. It's ridiculous. Even and so like we get I think society gets a little conflated about like nonviolent drug offenses and violent offenders. It's like we spend a lot of money punishing nonviolent drug offenses, and I think that money could be better served elsewhere. And it's all part of the system, protecting revenue streams, I think. I don't know. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
We're still losing track of our Britney Griner here.
Yeah, right.
Free Britney.
Free Britney. Yeah. No, again, her politics aside, it's still messed up what the Russian government's doing. Again, you know what they're doing. Again, they want hostage. They want their arms dealer back.
And we want our spy back, even if he's not a spy. But we want that guy back.
Possible spy. I don't know. Who knows?
Look, again, I made the point, and I don't know. I think it gets lost out there. If the guy is a spy, we still want him back. He got imprisoned in the service of his country. He can be a spy, and we can want him back. And that's a reality.
Yeah. So, hey, so small thing. We didn't plan on talking about this. I didn't ask you what you thought of Nancy Pelosi going to Taiwan, because I feel like you're going to probably think of it differently than I did.
Nancy Pelosi going to Taiwan,
possibly different from we had our buddy Keith call into the show too. Said we should nuke China back in the day.
I missed that. I wish.
Oh yeah, no, I wasn't sure what to think of that. I was like, bro, what? No, it would have been a bad idea if General MacArthur nuked China. Like that would have been bad.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Nancy Pelosi doing anything. Like she bugs me on levels like that. Honestly, that I lose words sometimes because she's so frustrating. She's obviously like a virtue signaler. She's obviously part of the clown world, and like I don't know how she keeps her job. And look, I mean, she
probably won't
follow
her
longer. For stock tips. No. I mean, Taiwan Semiconductor is pretty.
Oh yeah, no, you should have bought some chip stocks. Her and her husband snapping them up. So totally not insider trading somehow.
Yeah, I mean, I see Mitch McConnell supports her going there. Newt Gingrich was all over Fox News, being, oh yeah, no, she would, especially because they told her not to go. She should go. There's the issues of Taiwan and China, and Taiwan potentially being absorbed by China, and all of that. I get it.
According to the Chinese, it already is Chinese territory.
Right. 10-4, but still, so she's going there and she's putting on a good show. They were threatening to blow up her plane. That's probably not cool,
Yeah,
I'm going to say that's not cool. But like, where did Keith come down? I wish I had heard that.
Oh, well, so he came down, and I imagine there's other listeners who felt this way too, like on WISL especially. It's that we're going to have a conflict with China, and it's important to like stand up and like bloody their nose a little bit because their imperialistic ambitions are becoming far more threatening, and that it will, if left unchecked, become an actual existential threat to the safety, security of the United States, right? Which, like, maybe his point is like, they no longer, they have like a true deep water navy now, and they have, again, they have their financial tendrils in all these other countries and Africa and all throughout South. Like, they are doing legitimately dangerous stuff. And I did get to read it like right at the end. Matthew's point, who's saying something else, says, Kevin, I tried to give you some air cover with my comments about China imploding during that call. It's like, yeah, the counterpoint to that like we didn't get to discuss much was like, they're kind of overextended on all this stuff. They're overextended like domestically.
Right.
They have like these weird ghost cities that just like they built all this stuff. They're building all this high-speed rail. And
central planning for the win. That's what I call that stuff.
And like maybe eventually like it'll work out for them, but they're so concerned with like looking like they're winning that they're building themselves unsustainably and also over leveraging themselves in some of these countries, some of which, if too many of them act at the same time to like defy China, they'll end up losing like a ton of money and a ton of power and a ton of resources if they all decide, hey, thank you for all that money you poured into this infrastructure for us, but it doesn't matter if you say you own this port, we're not going to do it.
Right.
We're not gonna like acquiesce to what you want. I said there are folks like Keith though who are like, no, we need to do this. And like kind of my position on it too is like, I do not like the Chinese government. And like part of me, like I get a little bit like you, like, oh, we're gonna do something that's gonna make them mad. Good. They suck. Like we should make them mad.
I don't mind making...
I don't want to get into a war, but like they are a bad government. Like
the Chinese communists, like, I mean, yeah, like let's mess with them. I get it. It's just my issue of is Nancy Pelosi, right? Like that's my issue. It's not so much that should we or shouldn't we take stands. It's Nancy Pelosi. Sorry, I can't stand her. I don't know how she gets reelected. Like,
I don't
denizen of clown world that comes up with clown things like, we have to know what, let's pass the bill so that we can read it and figure out what's in it. Like these are real things that come from
true legacy.
Real people.
Like that. They should put a statue in the Hall of Congress. Like each state gets 2 statues. They should have one of Nancy Pelosi after she passes. That should be the quote on it. We gotta pass it to see what's in it.
Oh my God. No.
I don't think the state of California will do that because they're not as petty as me and you. But
oh my goodness. Yeah, so I don't know. Again, should we stand up to China? Yes. Should Nancy Pelosi be our emissary in that mission? I don't know. I guess so. She's the Speaker of the House. She's is that like from the presidency, whatever.
So like the actual so there's a Reason article about this, and a few other, I think like Cato did something about it too. But basically it's like, well, Nancy Pelosi going over there doesn't actually advance the interests of Taiwan so much as it just makes China mad for its own sake. And because we've already had like well-established relations with Taiwan, this visit symbolic. It is her kind of leaving her legacy without doing anything to fundamentally like advance the safety and security of that region.
That's awfully complicated way to say that Nancy Pelosi is a virtue signaling hack, but okay.
I mean, like you got to fill out some words when you're writing a fancy online article, Tim.
Okay.
Like in the same way that sometimes us being succinct is not all that helpful in a radio show.
True, because we do have occasionally with the radio show, we have time slots that we've got to fill.
That's right.
Luckily, when we do our freewheeling lives on Thursday night, we have no time slots to deal with. We just do it.
Just totally unrestrained. And Scott on Facebook says, China, they got their overextension plan from American history. Yeah, man.
Good point.
No, we had Americans are so overextended around the world.
Yeah, Britain's history. I mean,
yeah,
imperialism eventually folds on itself.
Yeah, you let it go too far. You let it go to its logical end, right? It's it'll collapse quick. And And Matthew says, Google China real estate crisis heightens as people refuse to pay their mortgages. Yeah, like I say, it's a legit thing there. It's like it.
Interesting.
They got some problems going on. Like it's the somewhat scary part of that is that as our economy slows and like their situation, which is already precarious, gets worse, they're probably going to have a absolute massive real estate collapse that will collapse their economy and probably end up hurting our economy too.
Honestly, I've been feeling a part of me like celebrates the collapsitarian theorem of we've already done it. It's already over. We already need to start preparing ourselves for this inevitable collapse. Our economics are Kevin, I'm starting to think that the Nobel laureate prize for economics may be just a piece of political garbage that people should. When I see Paul Krugman, this guy has won a Nobel laureate, and he's a simplistic mouthpiece for the status quo left-wing politician. I begin to doubt the veracity.
Maybe the Nobel Prize. I do not have any opinion on Nobel prizes for economics or physics or literature.
I should win it. My economics are better than that guy. At least it's like non-biased. At least I'm not a political mouthpiece for a party that's just endorsing everything.
Has he won a Nobel Prize for economics? I don't even know.
What's that?
I didn't even realize Krugman had won a Nobel Prize for economics.
Maybe I'm making it up, but I'm pretty sure he is a Nobel laureate. I will check right now.
Krugman's award Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Sciences in 2008. Yeah, no, he did win it. You're right.
Yeah, I'm having a little sound issue. Excuse me for 1 second.
Yeah, no worries. But I'll read this comment out loud for the sake of the podcast too. Matthew says, which is why the whole discussion, why military action isn't necessary. Yeah, fair point. I'm definitely not a fan of the collapsitarian point of view.
It's just hard to deny that it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like I'm not ready for that. So far, my garden this year has produced all of 2 cucumbers, and that's it. Like it just has not gone well.
Well, that is
like the 2 cucumbers are pretty good and all, but it's
because you can't get good fertilizer anymore, bud.
Yeah,
sorry.
And all the squirrels ate my grapes. Squirrels and birds.
That's the worst.
And they're starting on my apples now. I'm gonna have to sit out there with. I don't think I can do this and say I can't sit out there with a shotgun and blow away squirrels like in a city next to a park.
No, that would be awkward.
Yeah, no, I'd be going to jail quick. But man, those squirrels, I hate those squirrels. They eat all my apples. They're starting already. I see apple chunks around the yard. Get them.
Yeah,
my dog is useless. Just doesn't get the squirrels.
They kind of like dogs and cats. Kind of like squirrels. They're just like, hey. Let's you come over here and hang out. I got apples.
Exactly.
So what other guy? I promised myself that I would stay on point to the best of my ability tonight. So we have a list of things that we wanted to talk about. I feel like the Britney Griner thing's kind of played out. My feelings about China, no one really cares. Like they're going to hate the Chinese people because the Chinese government sucks really bad, and we're going to play on xenophobia and racism, and hopefully it doesn't turn into any kind of military conflict. We should keep trading with them, and we should trade together. I guess China's buying up a bunch of farmland in the United States right near military bases.
Yeah.
So we should be afraid of them, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. Why'd you read that one? You read it on Facebook? Is that real news?
Oh,
it might be. I don't know.
I don't remember where. Kevin, you know how my brain works now. I little facts get stuck in there, whether I read it in a meme or sometimes the facts are true, sometimes they're not. It's like kind of like an entire show of fake news with me.
Oh my goodness. Speaking of which, should we talk about Alex Jones? Good segue.
We should talk about Alex Jones because this thing has pretty broad implications, doesn't it?
Oh, you think so? You tell me what you think of this whole thing.
Well, okay. Alex Jones. All right. So what do I think of it? He got himself sued for his behavior over Sandy Hook, right? And that was claiming that he thinks it was a completely staged incident. And he used his InfoWars platform to do that. He also took all of his money out of InfoWars as he slowly, like all of the money out of InfoWars, and it was actually a corporation. And guess what, guys? You can't actually do that and still have corporate protection when you take 60 million dollars out of your company. Which, guys, let me ask you this: how did he end up with $60 million? How did InfoWars end up with $60 million? Like, that's definitely the Russians gave him that money.
Alex Jones is a CIA plant. I'm just going to throw it out there right now. I'm pretty sure. He's controlled opposition.
Honestly, right? Doesn't he make real conspiracy theorists look bad? I mean, honestly, he makes flat earthers look bad. I'll be honest with you. He's like that bad of a.
Yeah, no, he just throws out a bunch of stuff. Yeah, like, I don't know, it's goofy again. I kind of get mad at it because like it's so much like nonsense that I don't know. I kind of get mad at conspiracy theorists because most of the time, like it ends up wasting time. Like, to me, it's like you get bogged down in like crazy stuff that isn't real, that you think is so overwhelming that there's these powerful forces that are beyond like any normal person's control, and you think that it's empowering to know about them, but it's really not, because if it is true, you're powerless because there's these like elites who are doing all this stuff. And if it's not true, you're wasting your time consuming this stuff and being anxious about this stuff while ignoring the tangible things that you could be doing in your community.
I got to tell you that's funny, because I had a conversation with somebody that was a little bit disappointed that we don't buy into more of the conspiracy stuff, the Bilderbergers and the Rothschilds and the banking things. And it's like, there are things that we can do to fix things for our neighbors and our friends, and that's all we can do. We still have the freedom to try to fix things. And so how much energy can I expend on exposing the Rothschild banking cartel? And yes, they funded every war on both sides. I get it. Bankers are evil. Like that, the notion of making money off of money, it has an element of evil. So yeah, you're right. You can be right 100%. But does it present itself with a solution that is, like you're saying, has tangibility?
Yeah, right. Like, can you like if yeah, well, again, that's what it ends up being, right? It's like if you end up consuming yourself with the stuff, and again, this isn't like every person who listens to this like type of stuff or even believes in this type of stuff, like, but if you're consuming yourself with it and you're like, oh, I'm so gosh darn special because I know stuff, unlike you sheep, and then like you just sit there and your hobby is knowing this stuff without, again, actually going to like make a difference in the world, then like I don't know, I don't have time for that, especially since 98% of like what comes out of Alex Jones's mouth is total nonsense, and then like the other 2%, like I was thinking about to say, like, you ever heard about like one of the random word projects, like where we have this machine that just spits out like random words over and over and over again?
Yeah, I mean, it's a test for artificial intelligence, right?
Yeah, right. And so it just spits out stuff, and every once in a while something crazy will happen where like the random words that it happens to spit out will be like a full page from Moby Dick or something.
Right.
That's how I see Alex Jones getting stuff right. It's like he's doing a word painting, and like every once in a while something comes into view that is actually like coherent and true. And like we get the marvel at like, oh wow, like there really was like a weird elite ring of pedophiles doing stuff. A bunch of the other stuff he said around it is nonsense, but like there really was like that thing that
was
happened to be true,
and we all fought it. Like we didn't want it to be true. You know what I mean? So yeah. So
but that's why it's like newsworthy to me. It's like, wow, oh, that's weird that you happened upon something that happened to be right.
Did we bring the whole Alex Jones thing? Did we explain fully what's going on with him? Because he just lost $4 million.
$4 million in the compensation part, and then there's going to be like a punitive damages as well.
Yeah.
So he's probably going to be paying something more on top of that. And then he also almost certainly perjured himself as well. So I don't know if you saw this stuff.
The part about perjury I didn't catch. What did he do?
So this is the stuff like people were kind of sharing yesterday and sharing the memes of him like looking upset. Is because he in a deposition had said like he didn't say anything about Sandy Hook, didn't have anything in his text messages about Sandy Hook and like what he actually thought of it, any of that stuff. And didn't turn over any of that evidence originally. And also like they're asking him for messages about like kind of money made from like those sorts of things, right? Like money made from his show related to like that particular conspiracy theory. His lawyer turned over his entire text record to the other side's lawyer. Wow. And like the other side's lawyer apparently was like, hey, are you sure you wanted to send me this? And the guy's like, yeah. And so the other guy's lawyer's like, okay. And then he's like, and that's where, you know, he had his, as Alex Jones says, Perry Mason moment. Is like, hey, you know, who sent those messages in blue? And he's like, I don't know. Well, all right, what number does it say there? Is that yours? Oh yeah, it's mine. Okay, so the messages in blue are yours? Yeah. Okay. What'd you say here? Oh, okay. Didn't you say the other thing in your deposition? Did you say you didn't have anything in your text? So it was like that.
Okay, so he got destroyed.
He got wrecked.
That's too bad because I always thought of him as an entertainer anyway. Like he's,
but you know,
I never really took him seriously.
Kind of is. Well, and he said as much in his like child custody or like what was it called? It might have been a child custody thing or like a we call it when you pay money for children's expenses.
Sounds like child support.
Yeah, child support type of thing. So yeah, he had basically in like a child custody hearing. He's like, well, I'm not really crazy. It's just all an act. And maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. I don't know that it makes him better if it's an act.
And so he said things like about Sandy Hook that damaged the parents and the memory of their children, and it hurt the character of their children that were murdered at Sandy Hook. Yeah. And now he is going to pay the price. But think about the implications of this, right? Like we see Kyle Rittenhouse is still, I mean, he's won some money already, but he's going to win a lot more. You can't just talk shit and get away with it. You have to offer some truth. And look, one of the things that Alex Jones did that I thought was okay was make the world slightly, and you're gonna be like, Tim, don't go down this wormhole, but made the world aware that there are crisis actors out there, guys. Like they're real. Okay. The news is a bunch of bullshit, and they reenact scenes that they weren't there for, and they do it with crisis actors. And you see these actors popping up all over the country because they have a great story to tell. And look, David Hogg, don't sue me, bro, but I'm pretty sure I think you're a crisis actor. Can he now sue a Free Solution?
Probably. I mean, a Free Solution isn't exactly an entity, so
all right,
sue you.
No, well, I'm joking, guys. I'm just an entertainer. I don't think
there you go. There's a line. There you go.
I don't think he is. It's not even possible.
I mean, I mean, there is like what's the line of like speech and opinion and that's like his like waffling back and forth with his insincerity is kind of what, you know, makes it worse and probably makes the case for damages more likely, right?
Sure.
Is that like if he's being insincere and damaging people, causing emotional stress and damage, you know, that's bad. But if you're genuine and in expressing your opinion about people, it's a pretty high bar for that type of speech to get punished by law. Like it goes back to like that Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing. Like you had to reach a really high bar for the things that she was saying to be awarded like judgment on behalf of Johnny Depp, right? Again, those cases, like rarely does it go that way. Usually it's the other way where it's like, well, you either really believed what you're saying is true and or you had some evidence to believe it was true, or you didn't think it would actually hurt someone. And if you can cause enough doubt there. usually it's like, well,
Look,
that's protected speech.
we have a right to free speech. We have a right to responsibility for our speech. Our friend Demography Now. So you guys think it was a good judgment? You really are buying into the people being hurt by Alex Jones. That's like a subjective kind of question. Did they convince a court that Alex Jones damaged them? Yes. Am I like? Would I be sad and would I be hurt if somebody maligned the character of my kid and saying the whole thing was fake and maligned my character by saying I never even had a kid and my kid is dead? Yeah, bud, I'd be damaged by that. Would I sue? Yeah, I probably would sue. I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't.
And it goes beyond just like him saying those things. It was also like that his speech caused some of his supporters, like in ways he like directly kind of called upon them to go and harass those families too. Which is again, it gets back to like that's kind of a mushy gray line. We discussed this with like the January 6th stuff, right? Like where did Donald Trump's words cause like imminent violent action, right? And like imminent's important, and like was he actually saying those things? That's kind of, again, I don't know how much of that played into like what happened in this lawsuit specifically, but that's one of those like fuzzy lines, right? Again, if he was calling on people to harass the families and it caused them to harass the families and like it made their lives like demonstrably miserable, besides the fact that they lost their kids, and you have this guy saying it was all fake and their kids aren't real, it's also other stuff on top of that makes it so much worse.
There is an element of damage there. Okay, like Sandy Hook was real. Okay, people lost their children. Alex Jones saying he thought it was fake, and capitalizing on that and making money off of that, and hurting people at the same time. And part of me is like, there's consequences to your speech. Yep, you can say it, but you are lying and hurting people. So, like demonstrably, like when we get to the Trump, I like the people that took the acts are responsible. And look, also we're getting like into that gray area of was January 6th an insurrection? I don't think it was. I stand by that. Okay. Was it a riot? Should a few people be punished? Also, yes. But should people be locked up without due process for 2-3 years? No, that's nonsense. Okay. Though they're basically political prisoners and something needs to be done. They need to face a judge. They need to face trial, and they need to like, some of this crap needs to get fixed, bro. It's bad.
Yeah.
What they're doing.
And some stuff, it's like with again, I'm sympathetic to that, right? Like, hey, some folks had to wait a really long time. Some had to were detained for a long time. But also that's a pretty normal occurrence in our justice system. It's not just specific to like those folks.
Yeah.
Other people, famously in New York, like the kid who was accused of stealing a backpack and had to wait a couple years for his trial and was stuck in Rikers Island the whole time.
Yeah, what a bunch of garbage that is.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. Again, like it's I'm not dismissing what they're saying. I'm just saying like they got treated like a lot of people get treated in the justice system, and it is messed up. And I would have hoped that more people would see that and then be like, yeah, you know what? We probably do need a few criminal justice reform things.
We do. You see, Eric Adams is sniping at the bail reform process, though, dude. He is not happy. He does not like it. I think that a lot of people were there long before him. That the bail reform was too broad of a paints with too broad of a brush, and it takes away too much judicial discretion. You made great points about it when you talked about it 2 weeks ago, but there still is this issue that it needs to be fixed, right? Like we're hurting communities by letting I think Eric Adams would challenge some of the statistics you turn around. He's saying recidivism has gone up something like 8-fold or 3-fold in New York City, where people who are getting out on bail reform are committing more crimes.
No. Again, like statistically, it's not backed up, right? Like, again, like there are people who do that, right? Like those are usually the edge cases, though, right? Like it's, because I put up the statistics for Rochester, Syracuse, and Buffalo, right? And it's like, okay, so the people who get out on crimes that would have otherwise been bail eligible previously, right? So sometimes it's a petty larceny type of thing, or like whatever, right? Like whatever it is, usually nonviolent crimes. How many of those go on to commit a misdemeanor, a nonviolent felony, or violent felony, right? And something like 94% aren't, don't have it in front of me, but like in the Rochester area, something like 94% don't commit any other crime before they get to their trial and the whole thing passes, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other 6%, like 4% of those will commit some other sort of misdemeanor. And then another like 1.5% will commit some sort of nonviolent felony. Mm-hmm. And then like 0.5% to 1% will commit like a violent felony, right?
Right.
So again, most of those folks, and again, that's so out of 100 people, and times that by like quite a bit, most of those folks are not going out and committing another crime. And some of those folks might have otherwise ended up in jail and been held there, even though they weren't going to go and do anything else. Again, it's those edge cases. And I'd kind of concede this point, like, all right, so for the folks who are like, hey, you've been arrested 3 times in the last week for doing something stupid. All right, like we can do something else with that.
Yeah.
And like there has to be some sort of thing where if someone is being a menace, if someone is like repeatedly doing something, like, again, I live in the city, I experience some of this stuff, like people who would like harass you, or like who would say nasty things to my wife at the laundromat, or like not just like ask you for money, but like threaten. It'd be an implied threat, right?
Yeah.
Hey, listen, man, I know you got quarters, and I have to be like, yeah, dude, I'm doing my laundry. Get out of here. And yeah, it would get confrontational. So like those, and some of those folks, like I know they'd get arrested. I know they'd get the cops called on them, and they would just show up again and again and again. And that was before bail reform.
Yeah, right? It was before. Yeah. You can literally commit. We got a good comment on this from Scott, Brant. You can literally commit a violent crime, get caught, get a ticket, walk across the street, and get a cheeseburger from McDonald's. And I think on some level that's accurate. The guidelines are letting the harsh guidelines that they've handed down to judges on a local level are saying XYZ up to this point of violence, they get a ticket and they got to come back. And
right. Well, and again, the point is that bail. Oh, well, I've said it so many times now, but bail is not meant to keep you like detained until trial. Like that is not how it works. Is you're innocent until proven guilty. So that's how it's supposed to be. And again, people think it works the other way. And I know that they're again, I can see, like, if you're menacing folks, you're committing multiple crimes, harassing people, like doing other things, there needs to be some outlet for that. But most of those folks, that's not what happens. And again, even if you do get often accused of a violent crime, you do not lose your right to liberty until you're proven guilty in a court of law.
I agree with you, like 100%. And
except for like in a few other cases, like the mass shooter cases, that type of stuff. Yeah, like and we don't release those folks.
And that respect for the innocent until proven guilty thing has been on a decline, right? Our friend Rich Patel had some interesting comments on exactly this. If you want to get frustrated by duopoly politics, and especially by empty-headed rhetoric from far too many Republicans, follow the back and forth over cash bail. The purpose of cash bail was to compensate for costs to chase people down who didn't show up for trial, period. It was not intended as a system to start punishing the accused before they're even found guilty. More importantly, it's not the tool to use to detain those who are dangerous to themselves or others. In those instances, judges do need the power of pre-trial detention, but that is not cash bail. Money is off the table. And just from a perspective of futility, the rhetoric from Republicans for a total repeal is empty virtue signaling with no chance of success. Democrats know there are problems with the law, but so many benefit saving taxpayers money by not detaining people for too long for minor crimes, pressuring the legal system to speed up its sluggish pace. And just from a perspective of common sense, asking for a total surrender from someone who has twice as much power as you do is idiotic. And I think he made some pretty valid points about this whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's very. I think he does make good points. Rich is a smart guy.
So there's problems with the law. We're using it wrong. And one more thing that gets turned into a political virtue signaling football when it's something that legislators should have fixed. Kathy Hochul says she's not going to deal with it until after she gets elected. Like, what kind of garbage is that? Like, what? I don't know. Clown world.
Yeah.
Clown world, buddy. It's just clown world.
Yeah. Well, should we talk about? Do you want to talk about the ghost gun stuff?
I mean,
no.
Well,
we go right into like fake news or something.
This is pretty cool though, right? Is anybody else selling ghost guns to buybacks for? It's happening, man. They're doing $150 ghost gun. Some guy turned in 35 ghost guns.
Dude, that was gonna be my fake news item.
Payday. It may be. We can still do it at fake news because I don't know if it was real or not, but it certainly looked pretty awesome and it looked like a great idea.
Right, actually, we'll do it now because you read the comment. I started it so I could bring it up during fake news Friday. Yes. But let's do a comment now, or the story now. Did a man in Houston sell dozens of 3D printed guns at a gun buyback?
Well, I certainly would worship that guy if he did. My God, that would be great. I suspected. So I saw that news blurb. I didn't really do any research on it. Okay, so what I suspected was maybe his kid had gotten a 3D printer, made a bunch of guns, and he just took them and gave them to the police department instead of getting, I don't know, the $3,500 he would have gotten. I'm going with real news in a way, but he didn't get the money.
No, he did get some of the money. I don't know if he got he was kind of anonymous about it, but the police did confirm, like, yeah, a guy did turn in a bunch of like 3D printed guns, and we didn't explicitly prohibit that. So this time around, so we compensated him for that. But yeah, I turned in dozens of guns, and this point was kind of like, this is dumb and not actually solving the issue. Like, I could, as our friend Matthew on Facebook says, with a 3D printer you could literally print money.
Yeah,
and that's basically what he did. So next time the Houston Police Department is like, yeah, we are no longer accepting 3D printed guns in our gun buybacks.
That would be, you could pay for your 3D printer,
Yeah, right.
That would be pretty cool. So we're basically talking about Hochul and is going after guns. She's using the state police. The part I want to point out is, like, kind of in New York and many other states where gun control is, they're complaining about illegal guns, and they're creating task forces. And now their solution, one of their many solutions to this illegal gun problem is to make more guns illegal. And I think that's going to have a detrimental effect on our society.
Does that not solve the problem?
It will solve the problem of having a readily prosecutable population to, when we do let the weed criminals out, we can fill the prisons up with gun criminals. So that will keep the revenue streams going, which is just good
all right,
governmental planning.
I always accuse the government of not planning ahead, and look what they've done.
They're there, man. They're way ahead on this one. Way ahead.
Yeah, our government is planning. Let's not accuse them of not planning. They got it handled.
Diabolical, really. Let's be honest.
Yeah, no, but yeah, the way they want to phrase this like ghost guns, right? Like here's a scary thing, and like they're untraceable and blah blah blah. Again, you can't, at some point in time, you are going to get down to either criminalizing 3D printers and or criminalizing blocks of metal and pipes. Like, I don't want to have to like get a background check every time I buy like metal pipes from like Home Depot in case like I'm planning on making a ghost gun with them.
You can't buy Sudafed. You're going to have to show ID. You're going to have to tell them what you're going to do.
And I also think that's dumb. I give my pharmacist a half an hour diatribe every single time. And if you don't do that, Tim, you're not a real libertarian.
I've never been a real libertarian. From the very first show I did with you, when Dr. Mark Legowski called in and told me I was not a real libertarian, I've been wearing that mantle proudly ever since then. He's right. I'm not a real libertarian.
Yeah.
I am a pragmatic libertarian. I am more libertarian than most anybody else I know. And hopefully I'm persuading other people to become more libertarian as they move forward through life. That's all I got, you know? So ghost guns, yeah, man. And Kathy Hochul and her gun policy, I guess the state police are up to, confiscating 700 guns so far this year. Congratulations. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just waiting for the injunctions to happen. Hopefully, I don't know. I need to follow up. I got folks at the studio who are keeping me updated on like all the lawsuits coming through.
For all of the new gun regulations that
the like blatantly unconstitutional nonsense that New York State went through. That like if there's a judge with any integrity whatsoever, any like ability to read this in the light of like case law coming down from Supreme Court, would immediately toss out the law, just say like, nope, not enforceable, we're gonna stop it.
Yeah. We got a question from Scott out there that actually helps us transition away from the ghost gun thing and Kathy Hochul and her incoherent gun policy to date. But can you squeeze in the UN cracking down on conspiracy theories? We have worldwide, Truth and Reconciliation Committee. But I'll go one better. And Chuck Schumer and a number of other people. This is coming from Scott Ritter, who's kind of like if you guys remember, he was like a UN weapons inspector who tried pretty hard to tell the truth about Iraq. And so he has quite a Twitter following. Now, what he has come up with is the fact that Chuck Schumer fought for money to go to the Ukraine. The Ukraine has a Truth and Reconciliation Committee of its own, and that committee has, in fact, labeled Rand Paul and one of Chuck Schumer's opponents as information terrorists. How do you like that?
Information terrorists. Is that like verified? Did he really call him that? Because that's a wild thing to call someone.
It's not. See, that's where it gets confusing, right? You see these stories and you see the headlines or what we're talking about. Chuck Schumer was really upset at Rand Paul. Scott Ritter's taking kind of a political leap or creating a juxtaposition that doesn't necessarily exist. But he was really upset at Rand Paul for trying to appoint. And guys, the entire clown world, was upset at Rand Paul for wanting to appoint an oversight committee for the $40 billion that we dished off to them. Okay, and the entire clown world, even Republicans are backing them.
Yeah, no, you're right in that. A lot of the Democratic and Republican establishment, especially the more gung-ho foreign policy types, were like, yeah, like you're just delaying aid to Ukraine. You're literally costing lives with your delay tactics. And like, why are you trying to like buy into Russia's disinformation, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all right, like, I don't always agree with Rand Paul, but sometimes he's really right. And this is one of those things where, hey, look, if we're going to send a bunch of money over there, like we should probably know what happens to it. That doesn't seem unreasonable to me. Like we should because I had mentioned this before, like in Afghanistan, literally pallets of cash would disappear.
Right. Plane loads.
Yeah. Just like literal actual tons of the stuff would just get handed out. And like, we don't know what happened to it. Yes, and that we shouldn't let that happen. That's a bold stance here, but that's bad.
That is bad.
And if they're gonna do that, can they drop off a pallet of cash like in Rochester? Like,
you would be okay with it if you got your cut of the grift, is what you're saying.
That's right. When am I getting my cut, Tim?
That's why we ran for office. We'd be okay if we got our cut of the grift. It is a kind of a tenuous link that Scott Ritter's putting out here, right? The Senate Majority Leader pushed through a funding bill that now supports a structure under which U.S. citizens and politicians, including a challenger for his own seat, are being targeted as information terrorists. Now, one of the theories I could come up with and it doesn't take a conspiracy theory, is that perhaps Scott Ritter is LaRouchian and attempting to give Diane Sayer some street cred. And guys, I did a show with Diane Sayer. I found her compelling and engaging, but also when we talked about the Ukraine, there were issues that she talked about that made me a little bit uncomfortable. Like, and I'm not saying she was wrong, even. I don't know, like the whole there's Nazis in the Ukraine kind of thing is a real issue. Now, are they fighting? Like, is the Ukraine army made up entire of like white supremacist Nazis? That one I'm not so sure.
No.
They get on the ballot. The white supremacist Nazi party gets on the ballot in the Ukraine. And they get
on the ballot in the U.S. too. It's
do they?
Yeah,
I didn't know.
Yeah,
you can't get on the ballot in New York State unless you're a Republican or a Democrat.
Sometimes they just run as Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah,
that's what it is. Well, and like those uncontested elections, like that's what you do. It's is run one of those other parties, and they usually don't win, but it's possible for doing that. And yeah, I mean, like so my whole thought is that, those folks really exist, right? Like there are really like the Azov Battalion they're fighting over there, they're bad guys, but like there's a whole bunch of other folks that are not white supremacists, guys. They're not Nazis, they're just they don't want Russians invading their homeland, bombing their cities.
Right.
That's just kind of what it is. And they're Russian Nazis too. Like they're quite a bunch of them. The whole Z campaign was also just weird.
Yeah,
that was some weird fashy stuff.
And Diane
yeah. But anyway, I don't know. I said I and like in terms of like the Scott asking like if the UN's cracking down on conspiracy theories and stuff. I saw memes about this. I couldn't find anything recent. I think something happened in April where they condemned like misinformation, mostly about like COVID stuff. I don't know what they've done recently on that. Maybe they have done something recent. I'm just not up on this one. Like the specific thing that I was asked about.
Like you, I caught a blurb and a meme and something, perhaps a few seconds on Tucker when I was watching Fox News in my hotel room in Connecticut. Yeah. But I didn't break the story down at all.
Yeah, so I only saw the thing. There's a thing that happened like back in April where they passed a resolution condemning misinformation. They might have done something recently. I just don't know what it is. And Ad says, what do you think the odds are that the Senate will pass the assault weapons ban, HR 1808? I don't know. I don't know that that's going to happen. I think like just what they could get through was the kind of compromise bill of the 10 senators that went through a couple months ago, whenever that was.
I don't think it's going to pass. But stranger things have happened.
It could happen, yeah.
And it will break down with Republicans and Democrats, and the Republicans will be like, see, we're protecting your gun rights. And the Democrats will say, see, you're killing kids and innocent people. And it's just so old and so tired, it drives me crazy.
Yeah. So maybe I'm wrong. I don't think it's going anywhere. Hopefully not though, because it's not great. I haven't done a show on this one yet, but it's wild how just don't even care. Like, hey, here's this recent Supreme Court ruling, plus the Second Amendment, plus decades and decades of legal backing to say that these are weapons in common usage and can be used properly and are not the most significant ones used in crimes. It's not rifles, it's usually handguns. Not that I want the government going after those either.
Correct.
Any more than I already have, but it's the wrong target. It's pure virtue signaling, and also not on sound legal ground, nor is it on sound moral ground in terms of ripping away your right to self-defense.
Correct.
So all that. All right.
We got to do fake news, man.
Fake news, yeah. So I used up. I had one fake news item, and it was the 3D gun buyback. But you said you might have a couple here.
Well, I said I have one, and it's a good one. All right, but it's gonna take me a minute to dig it out of my safe storage kind of. Where did we go?
It's on a sheet of paper.
I'm going to my phone for this.
Oh.
Where did it go? See, and I had it all saved. All right. Well, I'm just gonna have to wing it, Kevin. Apparently.
Oh goodness.
I know this is gonna go so bad too.
All right, looking forward to it.
Let me check one more of my secret compartments on my phone. All right.
Yeah. All right. You look like you're giving like right. I mean, I can move on to next topic. I'll throw like a bombshell in there, like, hey, let's talk about the Kansas abortion vote.
Okay.
Let's not do that.
You gotta bear with me. The story of Natalia Barnett, the 6-year-old adoptee, and guys, I'm not even going to do fake news with this. I don't even know. May have been a homicidal dwarf in disguise.
Are you asking if that's wait? Who is it?
Would you Natalia Barnett, a 6-year-old adoptee, may have been an adult dwarf in disguise.
Real news. I don't.
It's a real story. Natalia came from. Let's see. I want to say it was the Ukraine, but I got to verify that in this story. But was adopted when she was 6 years old, but it turns out that she was not actually 6 years old. This is actually a true-ish story. It began to exhibit odd and violent behavior, even threatening to kill members of the family. And then finally, they realized that Natalia was an adult woman. It's back from 2013, and somebody sent it to me, and they thought it would be a good one to discuss on our Fake News Thursdays.
What? That's interesting. Apparently she was on Dr. Phil. So it's got to be good.
Yeah, no birth certificate. So they tested her, and she demonstrated out to be like between 8 and 10 years old at first, though later tests said otherwise.
Weird. Yeah, I've never heard of this story.
See that? This is what being an esteemed member of the media will get you.
Reporting on decade-old story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of funny. Like, there's something to this one that made me laugh, and also kind of sad.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a weird one, man.
But it's real. It's a real story.
Yeah. I believe
Natalia Grace Barnett.
Wow. All right.
See that, guys? This is what you get for coming.
Now, now I Googled it and I'm like reading. I'm like, oh, what
is it real? Did you find it?
It's one of those things where it looks like there, as you kind of said, there might be some evidence that's a real thing. She was still holding on to for a while, at least the point I got into this BBC article about it, about like how she was the correct age at the time. And yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. So I unfortunately I don't have any other fake news items. I really just came prepared with the 3D printing thing. And I didn't have much else. So I think we're gonna have to cut it off at an hour today.
Which is fine. It was great. I'm glad I got back in time
reasonably
to do the show.
Lengthy show.
I'm exhausted, and we covered some pretty interesting points. This Scott Ritter and his attempt to smear Chuck Schumer, who I'm not defending Chuck Schumer. Don't get me wrong. And the whole attacking Rand Paul as an information terrorist. We covered Alex Jones and his impending financial demise. We covered a little bit about Hochul and the one way to ensure that we have a good supply of prisoners is to make more guns illegal. No, wait, that's not what she said. Something like that. She doesn't need any data points, Kevin. You know that.
No data points. It doesn't matter, You just gotta, you just gotta go with what feels right.
You can go with what feels right. She wants people to feel safe, so she's going to behave in a manner that she thinks makes people feel safe.
And isn't that what's important? Doing things that make people think that they'll be safer.
I think we talked about this last week, and that nobody can promise you safety, and they do. Just like Joe Biden promised to solve COVID, here he is, sick with COVID. But he's fully vaccinated, guys, so it's okay.
Got it again, right in a row. All right. Well, yeah, thanks for listening, folks. Thanks for listening, Scott. This is a great show, guys. Not assuming gender. Thank you. Appreciate it. Matthew says, thanks for the laughs.
All right, I'm glad we got people out. I enjoyed tonight's show. It was a little mellower than some of our. I didn't swear once tonight, Kevin.
You definitely said the S word a few times.
Oh,
it's fine.
Okay. Well, that doesn't even
happens. You've been off the radio for a while. You're getting your a podcast edge now.
I'm
gonna have to put a delay on you next time I have you on a live show.
Beep beep beep.
That's right. All right. Thanks for the show. Thanks for listening, folks. Have a good night.